And get on the minutes and get our meeting moving. The first item on the agenda is, and the only item on our consent agenda, is the approval of the minutes for May 4th. Does anybody have any corrections or changes that need to be made from our May 4th minutes? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve as is.
I move we accept the minutes as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. And one abstention. Actually, I think Chris said I wasn't here, but I'll approve just due to the fact that I don't have any changes I know that need to be made. I think he said that was the way to vote, but either way, neither one of us were here. But anyway, motion passes unanimously with one abstention. Moving on to old business, SD 2405.
So this is the proper townhomes. This is an extension request. On the screen on the left is the letter for the requesting the extension, and on the right we've placed the notice of action. This item was a 10-unit multiple occupancy project that was approved July of 2024. There was a preliminary MOP, therefore has a two-year expiration window to come back to receive final plat. I won't read the entire letter there, but in part it is needed to complete the improvements. There has not been any permits submitted to date. To refresh your memory, on the left is the preliminary site plan for the project. It's located at Nichols Avenue and Young Street on the southwest corner. On the right is an aerial with the properties for that project highlighted in pink. Staff did require the applicant to meet with the utility departments, and we're not aware of any changes that resulted from that meeting. As I mentioned, no permits have been submitted for at this point. I want to make sure it's clear, as proposed, the current project would fall under the current suspension of certain applications that is in place, and as such would not be permitted to be resubmitted at this time if it does expire. Additionally, the various zoning amendments recommended for approval by Planning Commission and currently pending before our City Council, if approved as currently written, could make this project non-compliant as it is proposed. A final decision by City Council has not been yet made on those amendments, so we can't say for certain what changes may be in effect at that time. But to kind of sum it up, that a future application for this site is likely to require a reduction in the number of units and a change in design, and all dependent on the finalization of those aforementioned zoning amendments. But that is kind of the nuts and bolts of what the extension request is. We do have a representative from GMC, the engineer of record for the project, if there are any questions for them. But this is an extension request again for 2405, the proper townhomes.
Would somebody like to speak on behalf of the applicant at this time?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Planning Commission and city staff. I'm Melissa Hadley with Goodwin Mills and Kaywood on behalf of the applicant. I was the one that submitted the extension request, so I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions? I've got one question. I mean,
Okay.
It's been 2 years and absolutely nothing's been done. Why is that? I mean, is this for sale for somebody else to do the work, or is?
It's just been sort of a financing and trying to get economies of scale because the site is small and it's not very many units. The unit costs were coming in quite high, and the developer talked with multiple contractors. We've selected a contractor now and are very close to submitting now for our land disturbance permit. They just needed additional time. They had to do a little bit of value engineering, if we'll call it, on some fit and finish on the interior, nothing on the exterior, that sort of thing.
Okay. Any other questions? All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is not a public hearing, so, Commissioners, this is unusual. We have had quite a few requests for extensions in our time, and normally we have done a carte blanche extension the first time that someone's come in, and then the second time it not so much, but this is the first time in my, close to 30 years that we've had somebody come in, request an extension where nothing's been done. So we really don't have a precedent for this. We had one time in the past where no work had been done except they had been meeting with the utilities, and there was a question as to whether or not the land was bought with EMC Riviera or Fairhope on a couple of the different utilities. So they had gotten kind of tied up legally. So this one is off the maps. There's no precedent one way or the other. I don't have any real strong feelings about it one way or the other. I don't know how y'all feel, so I'll just sit back and shut my mouth and
If we've,
listen.
I mean, I understand we've got proposed changes before the council, but same as I handle building codes, until that's adopted, that's a proposed change, and the project came in prior to that. The question is there, so we've granted MOP extensions before, but they have been when they were under construction and they needed additional time to complete it.
Correct, and that's always been a legal, Chris and I have talked about that before. That's always been a legal question because, if you didn't do an extension and they were in the middle of it, there would be pretty good hardship. And it'd kind of be interesting to see exactly where it would land in some
Yeah,
of those
so if
cases.
it was just, okay, hypothetically, if an extension is granted, they would have to be, it's good for a year, correct?
Correct.
They would have to be 100% complete with the entire project, correct?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yes, the extension would be, if granted for a one-year period, then a final MOP approval would have to be done within that same 1 year.
Within 12 months, so that means they have to break ground
Break ground,
Finish.
finish the MOP.
and be ready
and
for
come
an
back
MOP
before this
closeout
board
within 12
Within that
months.
12-month period.
Or another extension would need to be requested.
May I add a little bit, if that's okay? There is quite a bit of expense that the property owner has already put into the project. So there has been a lot of work done, just not moving dirt. As I mentioned, because it's a small site with not very many units, it was just difficult because we're going to have to use one contractor that can do the vertical and the horizontal construction at one time. So that was another hurdle that they had to overcome. So there has been a lot of work. The Lett family, they're not developers, of other projects all the time. So it was also a new process and a little bit of a learning curve for them. So we do ask for the board to make this consideration and grant this extension. We have good faith that the project is going to move forward.
I'm curious, do you have you said you had a contractor lined up. Do you have an actual date of when you plan on really submitting for a building permit?
Which, the vertical or the land disturbance?
Either.
As soon as we get the plat extension approval, we're going to make the application.
So we could receive then, if it was approved this evening, could have an application or a permit submitted next week?
I don't know about next week, but I think certainly within this month, within the month of June for sure. We've had several meetings with the contractor, with a real estate agent to help with the marketing and things like that, and there is definite intention to keep moving forward.
What would be the effect, okay, so if an extension is granted, they break ground, but they're not completed within the year and not ready to make an application for the MOP final, what is the legal ramification of that?
They would have to come in to ask for an extension, and if the extension was not granted, they would have to submit a new application, potentially come into compliance with whatever the regulations were at the time, in submission of a new application.
And like I mentioned, we do anticipate doing the vertical and the horizontal with one contractor, so it'll be ongoing. And I don't think it will take that long to get all of it done with that that kind of movement. It's been a different process.
Chris, what options do we have on this? Is it just do we have an option? I mean, obviously, one is to approve the extension and one is to not approve the extension. Is there to approve the extension if a application comes for a land disturbance and/or a building permit comes within 30 days and then the extension dies? Or-
I think you can give, I mean, as you said, you have some flexibility and discretion here. So you certainly are within
Because I
your
mean,
right to put a condition on the extension.
I mean, the
And
odds
so-
of this thing coming in, with, by the time they get, approval going through everything, I just couldn't imagine after 2 years getting this thing finished up in a year with the current construction. But if they, got everything approved and started breaking ground within, if we did something like get an approval within a month and break ground within a month, then they would hopefully be close enough at that point that, if we did do another extension, it wouldn't be, for that long, and the light would be at the end of the tunnel, maybe.
I mean, that's a little unusual and certainly some additional burdens on staff, but legally, I think you'd be within your right if you wanted to put a condition on your extension.
Just to comment, I feel like every time we bend the rules, we try to accommodate, we just put more pressure to say yes to things we're not comfortable with the next time. So I have some hesitations with granting an extension when it seems unlikely, highly unlikely, if you haven't gotten to that point in 2 years, that you'll have a permit and be finished with completion in one. And then there's the pressure that we would just be facing the pressure all over again with possible regulations that didn't comply to grant another extension.
What is the impact if we disapprove?
You refuse the extension, it would expire. They are currently, I believe, subject to the suspension on applications based on the project type. And then they would have to submit a new application for the regulations that are in force at the time whenever they would be permitted to submit the application. So once the suspension was over, and if the regulations had changed at that point, they'd be subject to the new regulations. If the regulations were the same, then they could proceed with a new application under the regulations as they existed.
Okay.
You could certainly also tell them, and certainly subject to change, but if you give granted them an extension, you wouldn't be willing to give them another extension, and then they would have their ability to proceed at their own risk as well. I mean, just something to think about. That'd be documented in the minutes.
Then we're setting a precedence to let everyone multiple years.
This is y'all's discretion. I mean, it's up to your purview here.
Yeah, there's not a precedent now. We're setting a precedent now, basically, on a precedent of one with whatever we do here.
I'll move and we can see how it goes, but I'll move that we deny the request for extension.
Got a motion to deny the request for the extension. Do I have a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
I'm nay as well, so 2 nays, is that correct? Anybody said nay besides Eric and myself? So 2, 4, 7 ayes and 2 nays. Motion to deny passes. Is that correct? Motion to deny the extension, correct? I sometimes get those double negatives wrong. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, that was what was proposed before the commission, a request for an extension. So that'd be a denial.
So that was correct, not double negative.
Correct.
Okay, so 7-2, motion for the extension is denied. All right, moving through, new business, SD 2608.
Good evening again. So this is SD 26.08. This is Pecan Point subdivision. This is a minor subdivision of 3 lots. totals about 4.7 acres and does have multiple waiver requests, and we'll get into the details of those as we move forward. On the screen is the aerial on the right and the zoning map on your left. This is located at the southwest corner of Highway 181 and Highway 104. So you've recently seen this approximately a year ago as it was annexed into the city as B2 General Business. That was done by Ordinance 1835, August 25th of 2025. The current location for geographical reference is where the Hub City gas station is, Sweat Tire and Pine Straw there on the corner across from MAP. On the screen is a copy of the plat. You'll see there are 3 lots in a common area as currently proposed. In general, all 3 lots front upon the paved, publicly maintained road. Lot 1 is accessed from Highway 104. Lot 2 will be accessed via an egress easement from Highway 104 and Highway 181. And Lot 3 will have access through from Highway 181, sharing that egress with lot number 2. As I said, there are multiple waiver requests that would allow for simultaneous preliminary and final plat approval with granting of the waivers. So getting into it, in general, there are 4 waiver requests. 3 of them are waivers from the subdivision regulations. A 4th is a waiver from some required landscaping. I'll go by each individual one of these. The first one is section 4.C.1H, which is the traffic data study standards. This first waiver is to delay the installation of turn lanes onto Highway 104 and Highway 181. Work for the turn lanes would be permitted through ALDOT. The second waiver request from section 5.D.6 is the pedestrian area design standard, and that waiver is to delay the installation of sidewalks along the road frontages for the subdivision. The third waiver request is section 5, article F, the stormwater standards, and this is to delay the construction of the stormwater infrastructure. There is a 4th request, although not an advertised waiver, because this is a requirement of the tree ordinance, not the subdivision regulations. I do want to make clear that an appeal from the requirements to not do something in the tree ordinance is through municipal court. However, this request is to provide a bond or acceptable surety for the work. Had the request been not installing it at all, the court would have been its only option. In
What
short,
was that request? To get a bond rather than plant the trees?
and all of these requests are to put up a bond or some type of financial surety to do these installations of the stormwater, the sidewalk, the landscaping, and the turning lanes at a point down the road. In general, there's a redevelopment of the site that is wanting to take place. However, our current regulations with the type of use that it is requires a 100-foot separation from that property. Currently, this property is adjacent to residential property to the west. Therefore, redevelopment of the convenience store cannot happen at this time. So in order for it to happen, there has to be a lot separating the two from each other. Staff does not support these requests. Staff does not support setting the precedents to delay subdivision requirements to wait for a future development activity. In general, as I said, the waiver request is to delay the required improvements until a future tenant is ready to develop or redevelop the site. The individual waiver requests were described in detail, and they are all seeking to provide a bond or financial guarantee. Some general comments for the site is most we can give with the aforementioned waiver request is the utilities as proposed are available off of Highway 181 and 104. Gas would be determined with final drawings. A traffic impact study was done for a Circle K and for 2 quick service restaurants, and those did require right turn lanes from 104 and Highway 181. The drainage narrative was provided, saying that the property will not change the pattern or flow, but the development for each site shall keep the drainage patterns the same. However, there is a common area being created within this subdivision for the drainage to go. This would require the individual lot owners to be responsible for coordinating those improvements inside of that area. There were no wetlands located on the site. That kind of concludes the information that I have for the report. For as far as the recommendations, the waiver requests do need to be voted on separately from the actual recommendation for the approval or disapproval of the subdivision. For the three waivers, the traffic study standards, the pedestrian area design, and the stormwater standards, staff does recommend denial on all three waiver requests. And staff recommendation for SD 26.08 Pecan Point is for denial based off of the denial for all of the waiver requests. If there's any questions on behalf of staff, I'd be happy to answer those. And we do have the applicant and engineer of record, Chris Lee, with us tonight to answer any questions on behalf of the applicant.
If we do deny all the waiver requests, but approve the plan, are there any other conditions that the staff would put on this?
Well, if staff was going to recommend approval, we would have recommended approval conditioned upon the waiver request being approved.
Can you put the subdivision sketch back? So can you point out the three, there's that 3 or 4 lots?
There's 3 buildable lots with one common area. The common area is on the southwest corner of the property to allow for future detention area.
So basically, they're looking at a gas station to come on the top right.
Correct. It would be a redevelopment of the existing gas station. And when this property came into the city, the nonconformities of what existed on the property were discussed with Planning Commission, with City Council, and as they continue to exist as they are a legal, nonconforming business that is there. So the gas station, the other businesses that are on that property, as long as they stay as they are, there is no problem with those continue to be maintained. If a storm came through and knocked off the roof, they could put a new roof back on it to bring that building back up. The use would continue to go. But at the moment that you try to redevelop or tear down and start over, you have to come into compliance with all of the current regulations. And that's where they're drawing a hard time of not being able to meet those current regulations at this point.
Why is that? Is that because of a building on one of those
The-
buildings on those other
The
lots?
zoning ordinance for a convenience store requires that you have at least 100-foot separation from a residentially zoned piece of property, and the property immediately to the west of what is lot 1 on your screen is zoned residential. So a way of getting around that is to create lot 1, so lot 2 is therefore over 100 feet away from that residentially zoned piece of property.
What's that got to do with the waivers, though?
Well, that does nothing to do with the waivers.
Let me ask
Be it
the,
lot
That's
one,
why
there's
the
gonna be
subdivision
a-
has to take place.
So the lot with the gas station will be in compliance of the 100 feet when lot 1 is made. So they just basically, they don't want to do the water retention of the sidewalks of the, and the.
They don't want to do that.
ingress.
They don't want to put that infrastructure in or do that work until the tenant for the gas station comes online and it is available to do that work at that point. Instead of going through with the businesses being operational now, putting in the landscaping, putting in the turn lanes while the current gas station is operational, and then final platting the property, then coming through and tearing down the existing gas station that is there to then rebuild the new gas station, and worry that a lot of the infrastructure that is going to be put in as a result of the subdivision would potentially be not protected and destroyed or damaged or have to be redone. A similar, kind of a similar comment we get from some of the residential home builders of, well, why are we putting the sidewalks in now? We're going to have to come through and drive across it to build our house. So it's not a new comment that we're really hearing.
More questions for staff?
yeah, I may have misunderstood the response to the earlier question, but so I might phrase it a different way. Aside from the requested waivers, are there any issues with the project?
I don't believe so, but with all of the waiver requests, we don't have a full drainage report to go to verify how the drainage is going to be installed. That would have to be reviewed at a later time.
Gotcha.
If the sidewalks go in where they're saying, I don't think there's gonna be any conflicts, but a lot of times when, especially with this multitude of waivers, we don't have all the pieces at the same time to really put forth. My gut tells me that, nope, if they went in and put in the landscape and the drainage and the sidewalks, that yes, the lots, Zone B2, they meet the size. Utilities does not have any current concerns with what is out there at the street, so I don't see any major infrastructure improvements being needed for the site. So I don't think there would be any other reason for denial other than the waiver request.
But just to be clear, if they weren't requesting the waivers, they would have already done some design on that and had presented something you could review.
Correct. We
Okay,
have
so
looked
that
at a
hasn't-
landscape plan where they show the landscaping, because if, I don't like to play hypothetical, but if the one waiver request for a performance bond for landscaping was approved, well then I would want a condition so that way if it was a performance bond, then that landscape plan would have to be approved by the city horticulturalist to ensure compliance with the subdivision regulations and the tree ordinance. So that'd be another a full review on that at that point.
We have a time frame on how long they're like wanting for a tenant or waiting for a tenant? Like, could that be
I would
infinity?
have to let them answer that question. The way it's presented
Yeah,
tonight with the waiver request, it would be simultaneous preliminary and final plat. And if it was approved, then a plat would be signed and these lots would be created contingent upon any type of conditions that this commission may place on it.
But it's adding the burden on staff and everyone else to track and follow the conditions and make sure that they do what they said they were going to do,
That is correct.
as opposed to,
Don't really know what they're gonna do because they haven't presented any plans, right?
We know that the sidewalks are gonna go around the perimeter. We know where the landscaping would be required, but none of that has been reviewed in full detail.
All right, let's go ahead and hear from the applicant on this time. Thank you. Anybody like to present on behalf of the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Charles Taylor. I'm with the Foundation Group. We're a real estate brokerage development company. And I'm here tonight on behalf of Gold Kissed Corner LLC. I want to start by telling you a little bit about who we are. We're a local family, been part of the Fairhope for generations. This is home for this family. And Gold Kissed Corner, this in particular corner, has been in this family for generations. And the corner we're here to talk about tonight is one we all know well and care about. I want you to know a little bit about what we have in mind for the corner. The existing business that's there today is the gas station, the hub. Sweat Tire. They've served the community for a long time, and we respect that. But our vision for this property is to eventually redevelop it. New structures, better buildings, and amenities that reflect where Fairhope is headed. We want to bring something to that corner that the community can be proud of for the next generation. New retail, new restaurants, that's the goal. Tonight is the first legal step to making that happen. I've also got our engineer with me tonight, Chris Lieb of Lieb Engineering. He's here to answer any technical questions that you may have. But the item in front of you is a minor subdivision. It's a 4.7 acre parcel at the southwest corner of 181 and 104. All we're asking to do is to split one parcel into three. No new streets, no new utility mains, just 3 lots where today there's one. Now, I know there's been some conversation lately about infrastructure and timing, so I want to be clear on something right up front before we get into all the details. The only question before you today is when. We're not asking to take away anything, no construction requirements. Every improvement the city wants is going to get built. The only thing we're asking tonight is about timing. I'll paint a picture for you of what's actually on the corner. The gas station and the tire shop Both of them are open for business today, and both of them are on existing long-term leases. So we got active tenants, real businesses serving customers every day right now. There's an important part of some of these businesses that you should understand. Underneath the gas station are underground fuel tanks. Those are big steel tanks buried in the ground that hold gasoline. And when we redevelop the site, those tanks have to come out. Pulling fuel tanks out of the ground isn't a small job. It's a hazardous materials operation. It means hazmat excavation, digging up a big section of that corner. It means heavy equipment, exclusion zones, and a lot of dirt being moved. Anything you build near those tanks before they come out is likely going to be torn up when we dig them out. So that's the ground we're standing on. Now, here's what the subdivision actually is. At the subdivision stage, we're not building anything. We're drawing a line on the map to split one parcel into 3. The gas station keeps operating as it does today. Tire shop keeps operating. Not a single additional car is going to that intersection because of a subdivision approval. Nothing about the ground changes the day you approve this. Same cars, same traffic, same drainage that's been there since 1995 with no recorded problems, by the way. All of it stays exactly the same. The only thing that changes is now there's a line on the map. We're requesting 4 waivers. And why the timing of that matters, I want to be crystal clear on what they are and what they aren't. Every one of these is a timing request. We're not eliminating a single thing. We're asking to build it at the right moment. 1, you're asking us to build turn lanes before the subdivision is approved. Traffic at this intersection doesn't change when we approve the subdivision. The existing gas station and tire shop, they keep operating. Whatever traffic they generate, it's already there. Building a turn lane now means building it for traffic that doesn't exist yet to serve a development that hasn't been fully designed. And if the redevelopment changes, which happens often, different uses, different footprints, different prototypes, we potentially have built the wrong turn lane. We tear it out, we redesign it, we build it again. The right time to build it is when we know exactly what we're building. This is that redevelopment, not today. 2, stormwater retention. The site has operated under its current stormwater conditions since 1995, more than 30 years. Again, no recorded issues. There's no drainage problem happening today. Requiring a retention pond now means digging it before underground storage tank removal, then tearing it up potentially to pull out the tanks, then digging it again. This is the definition of waste. Deferring also adds a benefit to the city. A pond built after final grading is sized for the real site, the actual buildings, the actual pavement, the actual drainage. Build it now and you're engineering for a site that could look different in 12 months. The city gets a better stormwater system by waiting than by requiring it today. Multi-use path and sidewalks, which is our 3rd, on the frontage of the property. This one's really about safety. You don't want a sidewalk full of pedestrians running right next to an active gas station while we're excavating fuel tanks full of pedestrians running right next to a place where ground's going to be moved and fuel tanks are going to be excavated. Once the tanks are out and the site's safe, we build the path, the full length, the full width, exactly as it's required. This is not a problem that the city wants to welcome today. 4th is the landscaping buffer. If we plant trees and shrubs along the frontage, they're sitting right in the path of excavation and heavy equipment when we pull the tanks. They get destroyed. So we'd plant them, kill them, plant them again. When we redevelop, we install all the landscaping at once, coordinated with the final design, and you get a cleaner, more uniform buffer as a result. So here's a simple way to think about all four. If you make us build them now, we build them on top of an active gas station with the tanks in the ground. Then in a matter of months, when we redevelop, we dig up those tanks and we tear up what we just built. And then we build it all over again. That means we pay for every one of these improvements twice. We pay to build it, we pay to tear it out, we pay to redesign it, we pay to build it a second time. And the public really doesn't get any extra for that double cost because the final result is identical either way. So all we're asking for is just to build it once at the right time, the right way. I also want the commission to consider what it would actually look like to require all four of these improvements right now. These businesses operating on that corner today are open, and both of them have long-term leases that are winding down and are wrapping up their operations in good faith. They're serving customers. They're employing people. And they're doing all that with the understanding that they will not be disrupted until redevelopment ends and their leases end. So if the city requires us to build turn lanes, dig detention ponds, install sidewalks, plant landscaping buffers right now, we're tearing up the frontage on this site on these businesses that are still operating. We're creating construction chaos around active fuel station. We're disrupting their final months of operation for these improvements that serve future development that hasn't fully been designed yet. Those businesses, I believe, deserve better than that. And this commission has some authority to say so. Now, I understand that there's probably some questions on your mind. If we don't build it now, how does that make the city sure that it ever gets built? And that's a fair question, and we've got a real answer. First, we're offering a performance bond. Okay, plain terms. That's money set aside that guarantees the work gets done. If we don't build it, city can use the bond and build it. And if this isn't something that I'm making up. This is the city's own tool. It's in your regulations, Article 4, Section D1A. We're simply offering to use that exact mechanism the city already has on the books. Second, we're agreeing to a condition on the certificate of occupancy. That means no CO gets issued. Nobody opens any doors on the redeveloped site until all of these improvements are built, inspected, and accepted by the city. So city keeps the leverage from start to finish. We can't occupy the site without doing the work. Article 7, Section A, are waiver standards. This is a criteria, 6 criteria. All 6 must be found satisfied by the commission in order to want to pursue waivers. First is an extraordinary hardship may result from strict compliance with these regulations due to unusual topographic or other physical conditions about the site. 1, the condition is beyond the control of the subdivider. 2, the requested waiver will not have any effect on nullifying the purpose and intended regulations. 3, the waiver is the minimum deviation from the required standard. 4, the waiver shall not have an adverse effect on any adjacent landowners. 5, and 6 is the waiver is necessary so that substantial justice is done. What's substantial justice? In planning and zoning law, substantial justice means the commission should avoid a result that's technically correct but fundamentally unfair. It's a deliberate safety valve built into a waiver and variance standards. It exists precisely so that rigid application of the rules doesn't produce an outcome that no reasonable person would consider fair. If we have to build these before subdivision is granted, the city gains nothing from requiring us to build these before subdivision, at the subdivision stage. No new trips are going to the site, no new impervious surface, and no new pedestrian demand is granted by a boundary adjustment. The applicant, the family, they potentially lose significantly. They pay full construction costs once now, then they potentially pay it again in 12 months. When underground storage tank removal and redevelopment, tear it out.
You're repeating yourself on that. You've already mentioned that. So if you've got anything
Okay.
new to say, please.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
sure,
we need to-
absolutely.
We need to move on.
I'm gonna wrap up, but I want to explain a couple things. It's a local family. The corner matters to us. It matters to the city of Fairhope. Everything the city is asking for is going to be built. We're committing to that in writing, backed by a bond. We're simply asking to build it once. Now, this is a textbook Article 7 case. The hardship is real, it's physical. Underground storage tanks waiting for hazmat removal. The condition is beyond the applicant's control. Timing, lease expirations, and the law of physics that govern excavation. The deviation requested is the minimum possible, pure timing, no change to design or scope. The intention of these regulations are fully preserved. Every improvement's going to be built, secured by the bond and a certificate of occupancy condition. There's no adverse effect on the public. Existing conditions have been in place since '95, and substantial justice plainly requires that a local family not be forced to build, demolish, and rebuild the same infrastructure within 12 months. We have tenants ready to roll. We're not waiting on a tenant. Our traffic study was done with a tenant in place on the hard corner. We want to make sure that these requirements are done in a way that we can get through subdivision. Right now, we're having a tremendous amount asked for us before we even know that we can get the property subdivided. So the applicants asked minor subdivision and our waivers as requested, subject to the conditions. We just ask that the certificate of occupancy condition tying to every improvement is part of what holds the city in control here.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant at this time?
Mike,
I have a question for the engineer.
Well, you said you had tenants. You have one tenant, correct? I mean, you
Yes.
don't, okay, if you had the other two, you wouldn't need the waivers.
Well, we still don't know if we can get a subdivision granted.
I have one question for Mike. Right now, it's Zone B1, or B2, correct? It is currently Zone B2.
Correct.
Okay, so there's nothing that prevents any redevelopment or work on that gas station from being anything other than a building permit issue as of today?
Incorrect.
Okay,
That gas station could not be torn down and rebuilt today.
but talking about like the USTs,
Mhm.
that work can be done if it's part of the existing site and they're replacing USTs. That does not require anything beyond a permit to actually do that work. And they
Correct.
should be able to
to
submit and
replace
get a
those-
building
to replace those
permit
tanks,
for that
would be fine.
immediately.
That'd be, if it was maintenance on the tanks,
If
that's
it's
why they were
maintenance on the
coming out.
tanks, because we've
then
had
it's
that
a-
happen at other sites.
That would be maintenance of an existing non-conforming
That's
use,
correct.
yes. That's
So-
correct. Similar, like I said earlier, if the roof was to be damaged,
Sure.
it could certainly be re-roofed. That's not a new site. It just couldn't be all demolished and then started from the ground up.
Okay. And one other question, the drainage pond that's proposed for the southwest corner, I believe, is that gonna be a requirement for a common drainage plan for all three lots? Which means you don't know what you're gonna have to build until you have tenants and know how you need to design that pond because you don't know your impervious surface, you don't know your parking situation, you don't know all that until you have the sites actually semi-designed, correct? I mean, it's going to be part of a
Yeah.
common drainage area.
That's, as of right now, that's shown as to become a future detention area for the site. So you'd have to come up the, similar on residential neighborhoods.
Right.
You know, there's lot coverage is gonna be this, each lot is this, and the engineers do their calculations based off of what the extreme could be to go in to ensure that there's adequate drainage for what is going to come in to the future. Or potentially limiting lot 1, lot 2, lot 3 to a maximum pervious lot coverage from the beginning to be able to accomplish that design.
I have a question for Chris when he's
I
ready
just-
to go.
Is there a demolition and excavation plan done for this?
I have not done a demolition or excavation plan, no, and I haven't seen one either from the potential future tenant for that corner.
Then how do we know that digging up those tanks
We
is going
know
to destroy a lot
the
of things?
tanks are very close to the right-of-way line. They are tucked in the north, kind of the northwest corner of where Lot 2 is proposed.
Okay,
So-
well, we had to dig up tanks at the clock corner, and there's buildings all around it. That was not, a plan was done to do that without destroying anything. You have a lot more land to work with in this.
Question I have, how long until those leases expire?
Said matter of months, and
July 31st.
leases are winding down.
July
and then there was
31st
a
is when the hub,
12-month
the hub
period.
lease expires July 31.
But you talking about on the 3 of them though, because I think there's, one item that's pretty germane on this is y'all have 4 waivers to get granted. We can't grant but 3 of them if we want to. And the 4th one, I don't know if you can get granted.
So,
Legally, I don't know.
yeah.
So that kind of puts you to a point that that's why I'm questioning, are these leases coming up in 3 years? They're long-term leases,
Yeah.
are they coming up in 3 months? If they're coming up in 3 months, yeah, you might want to go back to the drawing board and get the plan. The issues that we have, and I understand everything that's being said here and have the greatest respect for the family, absolutely. The conditions that we have is, when you try to be nice and try to be nice to folks, is say we give this waiver and then all of a sudden when it comes back, there are conditions that can't be done. There are, issues that just can't be fixed without taking a building down or without, because of where we are at that point. And then we get, hamstrung there versus seeing an entire plan and knowing that it can be done with the elevations and everything else that's going on, rather than just saying, we're going to put a bond up to make sure that all the regulations are met, but, we don't know exactly what what our final plan is at that point. And if you can't get that 4th waiver anyway, and these leases are coming up in months, it might make more sense for y'all and help y'all time-wise to kind of do what Eric's hinting at and go ahead and start working on the underground gas tanks in that area while you draw the, final plans where you know how much water retention you're going to need, where the sidewalks are going to go, where the ingress egress is going to be based on. I assume if you're looking at, restaurants or retail type stuff, you're going to kind of have a box on 1 and a box on 3 and know about what that size that is, where you can place those boxes on paper. And that might be the quickest way for y'all to get to where you're going.
And that's really what we've done up to this point. Right now, the corner can move as quickly through the city's process, redevelopment process, as you allow it to. They're ready to roll right now. We just got to.
Not as we allow it to, because he's still got the 4th waiver that goes to court, and I don't know.
If we can get through the first 3 waivers, then the 4th waiver is something that obviously can't be dealt with here anyway, so.
Mike, if we were just to do a 3-lot subdivision right now, if they were to come back and get a building permit for the gas station, would that require a mop at that point?
No, if they were only putting the gas station on that northeast corner lot, that would only be 1 unit on that property. I can't tell you what
Coverage,
for
the
the
coverage
site
wouldn't-
plan
the
review, if
coverage
that would
wouldn't
be
trigger.
triggered per that, or also any future zoning amendments that we have that are, underway right now could have any type of effect on that, because like I said, we don't have an application for anything on that site. We have what they're proposing is their traffic study shows, for that corner, but I can't tell you exactly what the rules are going to be at the time then, but it would not be an MOP if it's only going to be one unit on that one lot.
But it's gonna require a site plan anyway for redevelopment of the gas station.
Potentially. It's not right now, it's
But
not
that was one of the, is that not
Correct. One of the
proposed-
proposed amendments is
That's
to
one of the
require
proposed-
site plan
require
review.
site plan. for
amendments,
gas
just like
stations.
you said earlier, that's,
Right.
as you looked at it, that's a proposed
It's
amendment.
proposed.
That's not a right
No,
now.
I get it. No, I agree.
And, one thing that's kind of holding us back is we can't apply for a site plan because we don't have the subdivision approved. That's the chicken or the egg problem that we have right now, because we're not separated by a lot to the west of us is zoned residential, which is, the site plan is diligent being worked on. I've seen it, and it could come really quickly, but we can't submit it because it's not.
We've had people come in and submit the site plan subject to the subdivision, numerous times.
We were told that we couldn't.
Right now, it doesn't meet the conditions to submit a site plan. They don't meet the requirements of what the zoning ordinance requires, the certain, conditions of approval.
I just have a concern that this application is rushed. I don't think enough information has been put out there for us to really make a decision except for these waivers. Everything else is just kind of up in the air.
Well, I'll give you another, kind of just from the staff side, is even if, the putting up a bond, it's typically for a 1-year time period. So we had just a similar conversation just a, few minutes ago on the extension request is, in that 1 year, like you said, if nothing happens, then the city can call the bond and go put that in. Well, if nothing moves, then now the city is responsible for going through and disrupting the businesses like he mentioned in description of, now their business is going to be having driveways torn up, and now there's going to be streets closed, or there's going to be this and that with that. Now it would be the city's burden to go through there and enact that if, for some reason, this was to fall through. And you'd only have a 1-year time period where you may be under construction of a new site potentially, and in the middle of all that construction, having to stop to put in everything under those 3 or 4 waiver items.
That's where how long the leases are outstanding is germane, because if 2 years, then, what do you do if they're 2 months? It might be better to come back and have a correct plan that we know what we're looking at and we know what.
Would it be allowable if I answer just a few questions? I'm Cece Smith, I'm with the Gold Coast Corner LLC.
Sure, no, we're trying to just work this out, and they're legal questions, but go ahead.
I appreciate y'all letting me walk up here. A few things, we do have a general concept plan, and it's hard to have a crystal ball into the future. We understand we're doing this a little bit in a weird way. We're doing it as we can financially. I wish we could just wipe the site clean and make it go away and rebuild. That would be a lot easier. We would love that. Unfortunately, we can't. One thing we have done to try to use our crystal ball into the future is to have a general concept plan drawn, where we actually utilize the site plan given to us by the future tenant on Lot 2. It has ALDOT turn lanes in place. Lot 1 and Lot 3, we have put a quick-serve restaurant. That's not necessarily what's going to be there, but we've used the smallest building with the maximum parking area. So our impervious surfaces that we're using for our common area retention are all going to be calculated when Lee can do that to the maximum impervious area. So hopefully from there, all we would do is back down the retention, never have any surprises on how we make it larger. Again, we have been in contact with ALDOT. We've submitted those documents and an overall plan. That's another reason we're asking for the landscape to be delayed, is because the ingress and egresses are going to move and shift. If we plan them now, number one, they're going in the middle. If they're where they should be, they're going to be in the middle of an asphalt turn lane, entryway into the current gas station. If we can wait, they're actually going to shift, I believe between Lot 1 and 2, they're going to shift to the west. And then between Lot 2 and Lot 3, they're going to shift somewhat to the south. So therefore, we're just trying, the Lot 2 is currently in operation until July 31st of 2026, so coming up. We actually would have loved to have done this last year. We've been trying to do it since Thanksgiving. A good bit of the delay was my inexperience on this issue, so I take full responsibility there. I've been learning this process, and it's actually been very interesting, and I appreciate the opportunity. Like I said, the sweat tire will be December 31st of 2026. We're going to give them first right of refusal, as we did the hub, because we do respect the businesses that are operating there. We have been doing business with them for quite some time, and we are very thankful for the relationship. The hub has said that they cannot continue to operate there. They would love to, but unable. So we have found somebody that would love to have started this, 6 months ago to a year. Sweat tire, we will give them first right of refusal. It will be a requirement that they build a new building and make it, we want the corner to be as pretty as the other three. We don't feel like we're best representing Fairhope with what we are currently producing. So if they're unable, then we will hopefully find a new tenant. Again, in our crystal ball plan, we have calculated the maximum impervious area while putting Fairhope's parking regulations in. So hopefully that we can do this whilst piecemealing it, we can do it to the best of our abilities. And after the gas station goes in, that's when we're talking about the landscaping. We're talking about, and we can go ahead and do the west line now to buffer us from the residential. We're happy to go ahead and put that in. It's the north and the east that's giving us issues. But the retention, the sidewalks, and the turn lanes would all go in concurrently with the gas station being constructed. We would not wait on lots 1 and 3 to be designed to do that. We just need the gas station, we need the tanks out, everything clean in that area. And then we feel like we can let Sweat Tire use ingress, egress with Smith Straw that's on the south parcel so that we can keep them operating while we get everything. Or if everybody says no, we want them done in December 31st, we won't do a month-to-month renewal on the lease. We would love to ask y'all's opinion on that. And if there's anything else I can answer. Sorry, I'm trying to rush because I know we've taken a lot of y'all's time.
Anybody have any questions?
Okay,
Let me go ahead and open the public hearing.
thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you. All right, now we've heard from the applicant. This is a public hearing. Would anybody from the public wish to speak to this item? In that case, I'll close the public hearing and turn the meeting over to the commissioners.
So what is the, I guess, the main kind of detriment to not getting the approval for the subdivision like this month? That's what I was.
Or you mean? Why
The
why they
owner.
couldn't,
Yeah,
why not
right.
just wait until they had all the
Right,
information?
how, yeah, so like it sounds like they have a lot more coming very soon. And so, with this, master plan, so,
So with the subdivision, Mike, they've got, and Peyton, I'm sorry, they have to have the improvements in before they would be issued a building permit or a permit application, where you would receive a permit application for the redevelopment of the gas station. All the improvements would have to be in.
They'd have to be installed, inspected, and then come back through for final plat approval. So
Right.
those lots were then created. Because as of right now, it's a singular lot. So the request tonight with the waivers is for simultaneous preliminary and final plat. So if it was granted that way, then they would leave here tonight as a minor subdivision with whatever conditions tied to it, or bonds tied to it, or future work tied to it, or what have you. And then the plat would get recorded, and then those lots would then be created, and then a building permit could then be sought after for any of those lots for any of the development, according to whatever the current regulations were per zone at the time.
In complete respect to the family, I can only imagine what it's like to try to do a commercial development. I would never attempt a commercial development, and I've been doing construction for 35 years, so God bless you. understand, in respect to the family, my biggest thing is granting that many waivers or granting those waivers. Because if we do this here, I can promise you, I hear it from builders all the time. Well, you know, you worked with this person on this, and why can't, you know, or why are you not going to work with me on this? And I work with everybody equally, and I'm going to treat everybody equally. I'm not going to let one do something that I'm not going to let somebody else. And it has absolutely nothing to do with not being in agreement with what you're wanting to do. That's just a big ask to try to get all of those waivers, those kind of waivers for a subdivision when we're going to be seeing a bunch of other subdivision applications coming in.
What we do for one, we have to do for the other, and that sets a precedent.
That's a
where,
huge
hey,
precedent.
we're asking for 3 waivers, and even if we give the 3, you've still got the 4th.
Right.
That hamstrings you and keeps you from doing what you want to do anyway. And,
So you're saying we cannot subdivide until we do all the landscaping and the pavement and all that? We can't get a subdivision?
no, that's,
So far, we've got a Circle K rep here, they've not been able to submit their plans because we don't have the subdivision because of to the west. We're in this cycle that we've been in since November.
well, we don't, I think what they're saying is we're being asked for a lot of waivers. The subdivision would be approved, correct me, am I wrong?
Yeah.
Mike, the subdivision could be approved subject to the work being done if we had the overall subdivision plan showing the sidewalks and the ingress, egress.
If it wasn't for the waiver request, I don't see anything that would trip the subdivision up. I think it's the part of the hard problem for the family is contractually trying to get part of the property sold to an entity that can come in to do the improvements instead of doing the improvements now and then having that entity come in and purchase the property.
That's not what we're doing. We're not selling the property at all. We just got to get to the first step of the legal process. What you asked for earlier was, we got to do this before building permit. No, we've got to do this before subdivision. And that's the big thing.
Well,
is-
correct me if I'm
And
wrong,
it's
it's not
actually-
before
it's not
subdivision,
before
it's part
subdivision.
of
It's
subdivision.
Part of the
It's
subdivision.
concurrent.
You're asking us to do a subdivision. This is like you
With
going
no
to Eric
information.
and saying, I want a building permit, and him saying, show us the plans, and saying, I don't have any, but the house is gonna look kind of like that. You know, that's what you're asking. We approve subdivisions all the time with the work not done. Every single subdivision I've approved in my 30 years, the work has never been done. But we approve it on the front end, subject to the work being done. That's the preliminary approval. And then when the work is done, they come back for the final plat. So here y'all are asking us for the preliminary and the final plat without even showing us what the final plat's gonna be. And I've never known of any city in any state in the United States of America to ever do that before. It's like, you know.
Imagine the leap, if we took that leap of faith with you, you know, who else could jump through that door and what else might happen? That's the concern.
I've worked with you in the construction world, I
Yes,
just don't
ma'am.
look like this.
No.
And so I do understand, and what you mentioned, the reason we were asking is because the commercial world was scary, and we actually have a tenant willing to come in and hold our hand and walk us through.
Well,
the
and there are a lot of ways that you can
It
kind
was-
of,
it was-
and there's some ways you can peel this onion. For instance, you go back to engineer and you get the plan drawn, you know, don't necessarily ask for all the waivers. Maybe you just ask to build, you know, and I don't know if this will go or not, you know, yell at me if I'm saying something, but we have subdivision changes all the time. But I mean, if you take this and your engineer draws it out, you can probably guesstimate about where sweat tires would be or a building that size. You can probably guesstimate where the building on one will be and about that size and the water retention. And then at some point, you know, if, you know, something goes from 8,000 to 10,000 square feet or 6,000, then come back with an amendment to the subdivision. And that's how we do this all the time. And it's not that, you know, it's not complicated. It just has to, you just have to have some ideas of what you want.
So the general concept plan we've submitted and the ALDOT turn lanes, would they be beneficial currently?
Some of those, and we
Or do
looked
we
at
need
that,
something
is
further than that?
the full drainage plan that we don't have, and still where Mr. Turner is going is, that's still part of the preliminary plat process. That's not a preliminary final on top of each other. That is getting a preliminary plan. It would be without a waiver request for the drainage. It would, I don't want to speak on the other waivers, but that's the big, one that actually is engineered and reviewed. So it would still be a preliminary. So you wouldn't walk out of this meeting with an approved preliminary and final plat. It would be potentially an approved preliminary plat to allow the work to be done, and then come back and submit application for final plat approval to verify it has all been done correctly. At that point, then a plat could be created that has those individual lots.
Perfect.
And that's from speaking with you guys for
And as far
months.
as, building on number 2, the gas station, I mean, that could be taken down, and stop me if I'm wrong, Eric, but couldn't that be taken down and the gas tank taken out and all, prior? I mean, we could probably make some kind of an exception, for something like taking the gas station and taking the building down, prior to those sidewalks being done, but then, with the sweat tire or the other side, you probably have a pretty good idea where the ingress and egress was, and they could go in there and take that building out through Smith Straw's location, or just not drive over the concrete, go through the ingress egress, and whoever the tenant is at the time might have to replace a little bit of concrete, on a sidewalk, but that's not but a couple $100.
Yes, sir, and that's completely understandable, and that's why I was gonna say, maybe if we get rid of the rest of the waiver request, and really the big problem is gonna be the turn lanes. We would love help with that from the potential tenant on Lot 2 as they're building, so we can just kind of shut everything down at one time. Could we potentially just focus maybe on looking at that, and we could go ahead and get retention going, do landscaping to the best of our ability where the turn lanes are and gonna be, I mean.
Yeah, I think the main thing is just having the drawing that shows everything where it's gonna be, then you can ask for,
Is
the
our
order that
general
it's done
concept
in.
plan
Well,
and our
that's-
ALDOT
that's
turn lanes
still-
that we've submitted?
There
what-
still would be only a preliminary approval, so that your guys, I'm going off the time frame that you guys have discussed with
Sure.
us, that still pushes it out, several months' time to have those plans drawn up by Lead Engineering or your engineer of choice, come back to the city for a review of that drainage plan, back here to approve, to make sure they meet the stormwater requirements of the subdivision regulations, then permit to construct that detention area, and then an application for final plat approval to come in at that time. So I just make sure you're aware it wouldn't be the preliminary final that you're looking for tonight.
Sure,
That
but
it
it
still
doesn't sound like
delays
that's
it
possible,
out.
so we'll.
So, just as long as I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Let me ask you this, would there be a way in that maybe a waiver could be made where they could pull the gas tank out and take the building down prior?
That would
to
be
building.
just a straight demolition permit.
The gas tanks and the gas station, the current building, all that being removed, that has no bearing on any of this
So
tonight.
they
So we
could
could
do
be
that.
doing that at the same time?
I was gonna say, you
That
can
problem
come
is with the existing
make that
tenant still
application
underneath
now.
a lease.
And then you don't have to worry about the bonds, and those bonds are tricky, because it's, how long do you do it for, and then what are you bonding?
Sure.
As far as if, and I don't even know how you get a bond if we don't have, some type of a preliminary plat drawn of what we're actually bonding.
Sure.
If we say, hey, we're bonding, y'all could get into bad financial issues yourselves doing it that way, because maybe at some point, to make it work, the building's gotta be moved back 8 feet or something, you gotta take the building down and do it back, or, and then turn the bond over, and, so there'd be a lot of issues, but I think that y'all can get it done in the time frame if you, get your engineer to do a preliminary plat, and then, that gets you to where the only issues you have are the ingress and egress for 1 and 3, where everything else is gonna be. So just guess that and put it there.
Well, 1 and 3 are actually, our tenant in Lot 2, our potential tenant, has been nice enough to work with DOT already, and Lot 1 and 3 will actually share those same.
Then you don't
It's
even
gonna be
need
big
it.
enough for
Well, in
everyone.
that case, you go ahead and do the sidewalks now, which are just a few feet. That's not the expensive part. The expensive part's gonna be the AlDOT deal. The sidewalks are pretty cheap, and the landscape's not that bad. So you just do that part now, and then when you take the building down, just, tenant probably wouldn't love a lot of those dump trucks coming through there if you take sweat down, but you might, be able to go through Smith Straw or something like that on the demo. And, But I think that would be your best bet. And I don't think it'll waste you a whole lot of time if he can draw it pretty quick and, we'll try to work as good as we can to get you on the, as quick of an agenda as we can.
Perfect. And we have been speaking with AlDOT to move forward on our permit and things there. We're just, like I said, just trying to do it. I know it's kind of a weird way. We were just trying to work with the tenants on Lot 2 so that they would hold our hand through the AlDOT process because it scares me. Awesome. Okay, then we will go back to the drawing board. So today we might, I guess just to confirm, today we could leave here with a preliminary approval? Or you need, no, Mike's like, stop asking me that.
I think, why don't we?
We
why
have
don't
not
we
had
t-
enough
I
information
th-
to
I think-
review for the drainage
No, we
for
gotta
the
get
preliminary.
we gotta get your engineer's gotta draw it to
Okay,
get the
so we'll-
preliminary. But I'd suggest that you request us to table it.
Okay.
For however, you could come in earlier, but if they, up to 6 months.
I would say
But
start
if you,
with,
I would
start with
suggest that
that
hopefully
just
come
as
in
a
quicker.
big
But if
Band-Aid.
you ask us to table it and we approve to table it, then you can get it back, we don't have to go through all the waiting again and the resubmitting and the repaying. And don't send a $3,500 check to me. I did not ask for that.
That was private.
It finally
I'm kidding, I'm
hit Fairhope. They said they got a letter from Lee Turner today.
It was
asking
very professional, though.
$3,500. Well, you knew I didn't write it was professional. By the way, that's the first hint. That's why you didn't pay it, Patty. You didn't tell me that because it was professional and had my name on it. I understand now.
All right, well, thank you, guys. We'll keep bothering you, Mike, and we'll get Lee on it.
All right,
But do
We
we,
sure appreciate y'all's time.
but-
do we need a
We need a
request from her
request.
to table it?
yes.
Do y'all want me to make that up, or do you want to tell me what to say?
You just asked to request it for 6 months.
I request to
Oh,
table
I'm
this
cool.
for 6 months.
All right, have a request.
Or less.
Do I have a motion to table?
And
Motion to
just-
table for up to
Just
6
to
months.
clarify
Up to
one
6.
thing, I don't think we had an authorized agent for you for the actual case, do we?
Well, we
Chris
first
did.
had the authorized agent as Hunter Smith, and then we redid
Chris,
it as
yes,
Lee.
and just to be
As the
clear, I'd like
authorized
the
agent,
authorized
I'd like to
agent to ask.
table this case for
Okay.
6 months.
All right, do I have a
Thank you.
motion?
I'll make a motion to table it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is SD 2613. Am I not correct on that?
That's correct.
All right, yes, sir.
Good evening. So this is 2613. This is Morphe Corners. This is a 4-lot minor subdivision on property, soon to be zoned R1. This will look familiar as we have just recently, this came before this board last month. It's located at the northeast corner of Bishop Road and Morphe Avenue. It is zoned R4. They came in and requested to rezone that to R1. It is on the June 22nd City Council agenda for consideration, case ZC 26.04. As I said, it's a 4-lot subdivision. It's actually very similar, same owner as across the street immediately to the west, where it was a 3-lot subdivision. But this has 2 lots being created that will front on Bishop, 2 lots being created that will front on Morphe. That does not require any additional road infrastructure. Therefore, this is for preliminary and final plat approval. All the proposed lots meet the lot size dimensions. There are going to be 3 points of access for these 4 lots. Lots 1 and 2 are accessed through a limited area along Bishop Road, and there's a general note on the plat for that. And lots 3 and 4 will actually share a 30 by 30 foot common driveway easement along Morphe to reduce the number of road cuts along Morphe. Sidewalks will be provided as required. The applicants providing all access and utility easements on the plat. There's a fire hydrant on the southwest corner of Morphe and Bishop, with the fire flow test is inside the packet. If approved, we do need the finished floor elevations to be added to the plat. City of Fairhope for utilities. The sewer is low pressure in this area, and the city will not be responsible for the low pressure laterals going to each lot, and Riviera is the electric provider. It was a minor subdivision, did not trigger the traffic study. There was a drainage letter provided by the engineer of record. The runoff and storm water will continue to go to the right-of-way ditch along Morphe, which is a city-maintained road. The applicant did not submit a wetland delineation, but as you can see, the potential wetlands clip the southeast corner of the property, and that will need to be addressed at any future development on that lot. Sidewalk and utility plan, you can see there is a proposed sidewalk. There's a lot of trees and a ditch along the roads here, so they did provide a 15-foot pedestrian easement to allow that sidewalk to meander in or around the trees and the ditch to protect the right-of-way trees. Staff recommends approval of SD 26.13 Morphe Corners preliminary and final plat with the following conditions. One is simply the approval of ZC 26.04 by the City Council. Two is revision of the final plat to include the finished floor elevations for the proposed lots. Three is the installation of sidewalks pursuant to sheet C1, sidewalk and utility plan. And fourth is to record the final plat within probate within 120 days of this approval shall it be done. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on behalf of staff, and I believe we have SE Civil with us this evening to answer questions on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions for staff at this time? Thank you, Mike. Larry, you have anything to add at this time? I'll go ahead in that case and open the public hearing. Anybody wish to speak to this item? Not, I will close the public hearing, and commissioners, turn the meeting over to y'all.
I move we approve SD 26.13 Murphy Corners preliminary and final plat approval. Subject to staff recommendations.
I've got a motion to approve subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
And I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is SD 2614. Mike, you're busy tonight.
Just getting my exercise in. So the next case is SD 26.14. This is Summit Street in MOP. This is a final MOP application. It's located at the northwest corner of Fairhope Avenue and Summit Street. It is zoned B3B. It was a 6-unit MOP. On the screen, you see on the left is the zoning map, and on the right is the aerial. If you'll remember, this was a renovation to an existing building to turn it into the 6-unit boutique hotel. Little site history was July 15th of 24. Board of Adjustment granted the use approval for the hotel. June 2nd of 2025, preliminary MOP was granted. The one condition was that a landscape buffer and final landscape plan was approved by the city culturalist at time of building permit. That was done. On the screen for reference is the site plan. Basically, the only additions that we had for this was the parking area on the north side was constructed, some landscaping and a sidewalk put in along the road, a little few improvements there, and then the interior renovation for the existing building. As I said, the conditions of approval was met. The subject site is served by Fairhope Utilities for electric, water, sewer, and gas. There are no outstanding items. The existing drainage patterns were not changed since it was a renovation of an existing building, and the required landscaping has been provided and approved by the city horticulturalist. The as-built plan submitted for the subject site illustrate compliance with the approved plan. Staff recommends approval of SD 26.14 Summit Street Inn, 6-unit MOP, final plat. And the engineer of record is with us tonight, SE Civil, as well as the owner, Ms. Shelley Springer.
All right.
Happy to answer any questions on behalf of staff.
Thank you. Anybody have anything to add? All right. Looks fantastic, actually. Really, really improvement there. It looks so good. Love seeing the older buildings protected too. I'll go ahead and, this is a public hearing, right? Open the public hearing. Anybody wish to speak to this? In that case, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners?
I move we approve SD 26.14 Summit Street Inn, 6-unit MOP final plat.
I have a motion to approve, subject to staff recommendation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Go ahead and give that to whoever you choose. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. All right, Thomas Hospital, ZC 2605.
All right, good afternoon. I do have one Quick disclaimer before we get into the nuts and bolts of it. So this application was incorrectly advertised as a rezoning from R4 low-density multifamily residential to B4, when it should have been from R4 to B2, general business district. This is confirmed by the applicant on record with staff today. And due to the standards and requirements of the medical overlay district, this has no effect on staff's recommendation beyond changing the title of the zoning district. I discussed it with legal counsel today, and it was determined that the case may proceed with the altered request should the commission see fit to recommend approval of the B2 zoning designation. The application will be advertised twice prior to city council with the correct zoning designation as is standard. So going forward in my slides, you'll see all of the B2 zoning designations highlighted in red, just to make sure everybody understands that it is in fact B2 that is being requested tonight, not B4. So this case is a rezoning from R4, low-density multifamily residential, to B2, as I mentioned. It's located on the northeast of the intersection of Northrop Street and South Ingleside Street. Thompson Engineering is the surveyor and engineer of record, and the owner is Gulf Health Hospitals. On your screen, you'll see the zoning map and aerial imagery of the two subject properties. They're highlighted in yellow, showing as the R4 green zoning designation. Hospital is just north of them, directly abutting in that B2 lighter pink shade. Oops, excuse me, wrong button. So this boundary survey shows you the entire Thomas Hospital site with the two subject properties kind of called out in green there, just to help you locate it. There's a bit of a history. So this site, meaning all of Thomas Hospital, has had numerous subdivisions and site plan reviews over the years dating back to 1955. Most recently, in June of '24, the Planning Commission recommended approval of a 25-bed addition to Thomas Hospital. The City Council subsequently approved that same month. There is currently an administrative replat pending before planning staff, which proposes to combine the two subject sites into the larger hospital site shown here. So these two subject sites, Lot 1, Gooden Subdivision, and Lot 101, Azalea Woods, are legal lots of record, currently zoned R4. The applicant, through administrative replat, wants to bring those into the overall hospital site, which is zone B2. In doing so, administratively, it's going to create a split zone lot, hence this rezoning request. They're hoping to rezone those two parcels to B2. That way, once the administrative replat goes through, it's all one property with one zoning district. There's no split zoned issues for the overall site. Just zooming into this in case we need it for reference. The medical overlay district governs these properties. As such, they fall underneath Article 5, Section H of the zoning ordinance, which applies the B4 district standards regardless of the underlying zoning. Due to this, staff has no concerns about the proposed zoning change to B2, given that the properties are already subject to those B4 standards and requirements. North of the property is the hospital site, zone B2. East is R4, B2. South of the property is all zoned R4. West is R4 and R2. I imagine you're all pretty familiar with the actual development of the site. You have the hospital to the north. Most of the road north of street is has been developed with single-family residences, and then to the west we have the Leo Keller Fire Station and some off-site parking. One other item to note is the one of the subject sites. So if we go back, it's going to be, just to give you all a better view of it, this property right here. This is one of the subject sites. It directly abuts formerly Lot 101, which has already been absorbed into the larger hospital site and rezoned to B2. If tonight's request is approved, that lot will become a larger kind of rectangle, and they have an active generator permit to put a new generator on site for the hospital, which is subject to all of the buffer screening requirements of commercial next to residential districts, requiring a minimum 6-foot wooden privacy fence, 20-foot vegetative buffer with specific tree and shrub plantings. The applicants proposed all of that. We have a preliminary tree and landscape plan as shown here on your screen. If the, tonight's application is approved, that application, or those tree and landscape plans would have to be reviewed by the city planning staff and horticultural staff for compliance, all prior to final inspection or issuance of a certificate of occupancy. While staff did not receive any formal written comments from citizens during the public comment period, we have received several phone calls with concerns that tonight's application may have some sort of impact altering the zoning districts of surrounding properties. It's worth noting that tonight's request will only affect those properties that are the subject of this application. None of the surrounding zoning districts will be changed. They are all still zoned whatever they are currently zoned today and will still be subject to the medical overlay district if they are currently located within the medical overlay district. All that to say, staff recommends approval of ZC 2605 Thomas Hospital request to rezone property from R4 low density multifamily residential district, to B2 general business district. I believe we have the engineer, Janet Terry, here to answer questions for the applicant, and staff is available as always.
Any questions for staff at this time? All right, in that case, I'll go ahead, thank you. I'll go ahead and, engineer, you don't have anything to add at this time? If not, I'll open the public hearing. Does anybody from the public wish to speak? If so, just come up and please state your name and your address so our secretary can put you in our minutes, please.
Commissioner Turner, to the gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Olitha Curry, and my husband Samuel Curry. We live right next to the lots of Thomas Hospital. Actually, our bedroom will be right there near the generator. I see that they are trying to get theirs changed, zoning changed from RB to R4, as we know, to RB as a commercial thing. And I've been there 44 years. I'm from Loxley, Alabama, but we've been there 44 years. And I didn't know, I had already in 2019 had got a letter through Emily to Boynton to start us off with this, but I didn't know he had to do the application. I'm new to this too. I've been living here that long, and I enjoy living in Fairhope. Fairhope's a wonderful place to live. I love Fairhope. But when you get that buffering, I know that, I said, since they're going to put the generator and everything there, and we all caked up right there, all this commercial thing, all this building all over our head, I want to be commercial, rezone from R4 to B2 also, because if I'm going to move for being a, people first thing say we're going to do a residential area, I can't leave that place with just a residential to move anywhere else in Fairhope. So that's why I'm saying I need to be rezoned so I can afford to move somewhere else in Fairhope.
I understand. Yeah, if you would like to be rezoned, you just need to submit a request.
Yes, sir, a request. I did a request letter already. Okay. So what else I need to do, the application now?
Yes, ma'am. If you'll go, you can talk to the secretary after the meeting, and she can guide you through the process.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you for it.
All right. Would anybody else wish to speak to this item? Yes, sir.
Hi.
And again, if you'll state your name and your...
Matt Wilson, 304 South Ingleside Street. If you look at the current proposal, the proposed lot on the far left is currently being used as a construction trailer for the hospital renovation. I mean, is that really, it's not being used currently as a residential lot. Is that legal? Can they do that? Just decide that it's going to be a construction zone and not have a house or anything on it?
I do not know the answer to that question. I don't know have to ask.
The house wouldn't specifically be required to be on it, as the properties are governed by the
We're
medical
talking
overlay district.
about the zoning, not, the current use, but I don't know what, Eric might be able to tell you where you can put a construction trailer and where you can't, but I've seen them just about everywhere, every residential, commercial, I've seen them pretty much everywhere, but I don't know the laws behind where you can put a construction trailer.
I mean, do you not have to go by the zoning rules?
Well, and to be clear, it is part of the medical overlay district. So it is zoned residential, but there's an overlay district that has a broader uses over the property.
So they can,
And construction trailers are also considered a temporary use.
how about parking lots?
Parking's a different zoning. Is it a temporary use? I'm going to defer that one to staff.
Off-site parking would
Reed has
typically
a-
require a specific zoning designation for a parking lot.
Well,
But what is this medical zone that they can do whatever they want to because it's a medical zone?
There's specific uses within the zoning ordinance that are allowed within the medical overlay district. I'm kind of speaking broadly right now, but essentially if your property falls within the boundaries of the medical overlay, you can operate uses that would be considered tangential to medical uses. So a hospital or a doctor's office
Things
or
like doctor's offices and all, because
generator
as
that
a-
might supply power to
As a
the hospital.
municipality, you want your medical offices as close to the hospital as you can. And, the purpose of the overlay district was to try to keep medical businesses from not having to move to Daphne or Spanish Fort or Foley to be able to be close to the hospital
How do you determine where the
citizens can
medical
come in.
district? My house is just basically catty corner from the construction trailer.
So in this map, it's this dashed blue line.
Okay. So I'm in that little corner lot, just catty corner from,
Right here?
yeah, and the lot next to it. We bought the lot next to it, so.
Your property's just outside the medical overlay district, so your uses and what you're allowed to do would fall under whatever that zoning district is. Which I believe is R4,
Yeah. There's actually a parking lot
R5, what's the brown?
that is between my house
R2.
and, it's not Middle Street. There's something wrong here. Oh, okay, no, I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm actually right there. I don't know if that's showing up.
Yep. Everything on the west side of Ingleside is outside of the
So
medical
just,
overlay
just
district.
north of my house, this lot right here is zoned,
R2.
and it's a parking lot for construction. It's always been a parking lot.
I'm happy to, if you want to make an appointment in our
that's-
office, we can talk about that, but that has no variance on
On
what
what we're
the
doing
case is
here. Yeah,
tonight.
I got you.
Yes, sir.
I just thought as long as I decide to come show up,
Yeah.
I'd ask the question.
And I don't. glad
Okay, and you are Mike?
Mike Jeffries.
Mike Jeffries. I'll do
Yes, sir.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, thank you, sir. All right, anybody else wish to speak to this item? In that case, I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, can we get the applicant to state on the record, just, I know they already voiced the B2 designation, but can we just get them to state that on the record too while we're here?
Yes, I'm Janet Terry. I'm representing Thompson Engineering. We made an error and listed it as B4, and we're asking that it be made B2.
Thank you, that's sufficient.
All right, so we'd like a motion to approve the staff recommendation. Is that included in the staff recommendation?
Correct. On the slides, not within the staff report.
Okay, so somebody could make a motion to, if they so desire, to approve the staff recommendation on the slide.
I move we recommend approval to the city council of Z05 Thomas Hospital, requested rezone property from R4, low-density multifamily residential to District B2 business.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. And now we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 URs, so we need 6 minutes to pass these.
There'll be just a touch of discussion, as these are all small cell applications and are not all just underground fiber, which is why they're not on the consent agenda. So we
I
have
was wondering about that.
6 different locations throughout the city. Before we get into each one of them, I'll kind of just give a general breakdown. 5 of these are located inside of the Central Business District, inside of the right-of-way. One of these is located off of Seacliff Drive down at the marina on city property. Per the city's small cell ordinance, these are all proposed as new poles, so these will have to go through to city council for final approval. So tonight, we are making a recommendation to city council for these locations.
Got approvals on all of them. Your recommendation?
Our recommendation is for approval with all of them. There are 2 of them that have slightly different recommendations based off of their exact location and character, and I will highlight what those
And
are.
those are included in the staff recommendation.
That is correct, yes,
So
sir.
if you want to go ahead and just present all 6.
And then we'll
And
vote
then
on
I'll go
them.
through and ask for a motion to approve staff recommendation one
Yes,
at a
sir.
time.
Sounds
All right,
great.
perfect. Thanks, man.
So we'll go through these. I'm going to show you the general location. For all this, staff is proposing approval with there to be a light attached, a mass arm light to all of these. The applicant with Verizon did meet with our electrical department and our right-of-way department for these proposed locations to ensure that there was any co-location possibilities or where they were going to try to avoid any interference beforehand. And these are where that has landed.
So do you want us to ask questions after each one, or hold them to the end?
That's completely, it does not bother me. I
Go
would,
ahead, whenever you want.
Yeah,
If-
the
if-
co-location, just to start with, I don't understand why that's not possible, looking at those locations. Why
And our-
they couldn't be on a roof.
that is a possibility on private property located on a roof. That is a great question for Verizon to answer. I don't know if they looked into that, but our small cell ordinance does have that inside of it to, actually promote the use of adjacent buildings as far as their locations. That requires a little more work on their end, other than just sticking another pole inside, beside the road, and some due diligence and some, interaction with some local business owners to make that happen. So, but I do not know if that was discussed, if they did any of that or
Is it
not.
a coverage or a capacity issue?
Excellent question for Verizon.
I have a lot of
I do
questions.
not know.
I wonder if
I have
we
a
ought
lot
to
of
table
questions.
this and have Verizon come back.
I have a
And I'd
lot
like
of
to look at this,
questions
especially
about-
If
Well, I
we're
believe.
gonna have
We have
6.
representation from Verizon with us this evening.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Okay.
see him back there. Okay.
Because we have a question for Verizon as well. We had 5 of these approved of August of last year and still have not had any permits issued or even submitted for, to begin work on these. So we've hit this before with some other communications of, we keep approving, but nothing's actually being built. And during that time, there is no expiration on these utility reviews. So it kind of, if, some type of other development or redevelopment of an area was to occur, and then 6
Well, we're
months
trying
later.
so hard to get, to not have poles. And when you look at areas like, Bancroft that have poles going down them versus Section Street that doesn't.
Yeah, and the
You
height
know,
of the
it's-
poles is also a concern at staff. The majority of these top of the antennas are at 37 feet. Yes, sir.
How would that affect if, theoretically, if someone wanted to put it on top of the building, how does that mesh with our building height maximum?
That would be an excellent question to discuss. That would have to go through the small cell ordinance gives some height allowance for it to be on top of a building. I do not know it off the top of my head what that is, but that would certainly be a discussion depending on what that building was when it came before this board. But I don't have those proposals in front of me to really be able to evaluate that. But that's an excellent question of if it's on top of a maxed out building, and then how tall would that even be something that our other ordinances would allow? It's a very good
Well, I
question.
mean, if an air conditioning system can be higher than that, if there's a little bit of allowance for utilities on the top of the building.
Not for in the CBD over 40 feet. 40 feet is the
Oh,
top of all equipment.
We
Okay.
changed that recently.
does it also fall outside our franchise agreement if it would, the providers, if it goes on top of a private building?
Yeah, they would have to have a private lease with the property owner.
Private lease with them?
And can other carriers use these same poles? What if,
How many poles are we gonna end up with in the
Yeah, I
street?
mean, what if AT&T
AT&T
then
needs
wants
them,
it and
yeah.
T-Mobile and?
Well, we've had a, a stint, several years ago where AT&T did come through and they were, I take it back, Verizon was the first one that came through, I think in 2013. It installed a series of poles. I don't know how far north they went, but they went from, right in town close to the pier all the way down Scenic 98. That is actually some of the poles from a year ago that we looked at as this body, and they were replacing some of the existing poles with newer poles because they were outdated. And to date, those 5 approvals are still sitting exactly where they were. None of the replacements have taken place.
That was my next question, is what happens when these become obsolete? And then also, why is it concentrated in downtown? Is this a seasonal thing, or is it a capacity? Like, that just seems very, a lot of.
Correct, and I don't know if it is like, we need more small towers to get the coverage because of the denseness, the population that we have that is in town during the day, during, peak hours, similar to, you look at a traffic study and go, well, these turn lanes are needed for the peak hour times, and then, we don't quite need it, we don't need it at 8 o'clock at night, but we need it for prime time when things are really happening. And I've let Verizon answer the questions on to the whys of where they are, and to the height. I know in 2018, I believe it was, when we had a series of these come through for a different provider, I think there was about 10 of them. They were able to keep the poles a little bit lower than what we have. They also were not downtown Fairhope. We had one that was able to be co-located and replaced an existing light pole with what we have, and it's actually right outside this building, next to the art center on that corner.
I guess, without getting into technical questions for Verizon, that I'm concerned at, the visual clutter when we put flowers on our trash cans, and then we keep adding, I've got like 3 different things in the front yard of my office downtown already. And then concerned that maybe the other options weren't explored. I've been in lots of places where these are located on top of buildings, or we also have a lot of alleys downtown. Could they be located off of the street?
Right.
Behind a building?
Looks like 3 of these are currently on light poles that are already there.
Or we are swapping that, a couple of them we're able to swap out some light poles. They cannot go on our utility poles per our electric department because of where our primary lines are. Nothing is allowed to be above those, so the small cell or communications tower cannot utilize that same pole. We do have some, I think 2 or 3 existing poles where they are replacing a light pole with this tower, so it's not all.
Okay, I wasn't clear that was a replacement.
Some of it is.
Kind of looked like we were just adding.
Majority, I think 4 out of the 6 are adding. One at the marina is replacing a pole, and then we have one on Fairhope Avenue, right in front of Coastal Community College, where we are proposing, as you'll see when we get to it, to be relocated a little further to the east to replace a light pole that is there, to try to avoid an additional pole that's in the way. Because that is staff's concern of, how many carriers do we have? How many small cells do we have? And now with light poles, power poles, communication poles, small cell poles, decorative poles, lamp poles, light poles.
Do we have stats for evidence of need? Like, I'm just wondering why we need that many.
Could we?
We did not get that information, but we could certainly request that information to have if we have some, specific questions of what we're looking to see. I'm sure that they certainly have that data that they could provide us.
Cliff, I get, that's out there, maybe for the boats or something that's out about near the water, but the conjunction of 5 of them right in downtown is, I'm just.
I know they had a temporary, for Mardi Gras, I know they had a temporary tree behind Greer's for Mardi Gras and for
Yeah,
arts
that's
and
one day.
crafts.
Right.
But could we approve the ones that are gonna be not adding new poles, and then hold the others over to the next meeting and see if they can come up with some creative ideas?
They're not an additional pole, it's still a new pole, so it would still go to city council for approval for a new cell tower. Like I said, the 5 previously were replacing an existing small cell tower. This is a new small cell tower, however, we're just able to co-locate it on a
Well, what I'm
simple.
asking is the ones that are co-located, could we approve those, hold the other 4 over and see if they could?
If that was your
if
purview, you
Verizon
certainly could.
Look around and see if there are any options where they could co-locate.
That's certainly within your guys' power tonight.
historic district. And if we start putting them in certain areas, then it's got to go through the historic review. Currently, all of these towers are outside of the downtown historic district, so we're not subject to a section 106 review.
We have had some of these, we actually have a couple that did not make it to this agenda due to that 106 review. And I'm not an expert on that review, by no means. However, and Verizon may be able to actually go into more detail on this as well. But for the 106 review, it actually gets reviewed, for the historical precedence of where it is compared to a historic district. And then they get and it's not the city of Fairhope's Historic Commission that this review is going to. It is going to the federal level, and they're able to look at this and can actually make conditions themselves before it even makes it to the city of Fairhope for review. And then the City Historic Commission also has a chance to take a look at for locations that are within one of the existing historical districts, or I think even close to a contributing building.
I mean,
One more question, then I'll be quiet. If you'd said that AT&T already filed for these and we don't have them yet, so we approve these and then AT&T brings their towers in, like, do you see where?
AT&T got theirs approved, put all theirs in. Verizon, the same people tonight, got approval to replace 5 of them almost a year ago and has not made any actions on any of those permits. So as it stands, those 5 replacements are on the books, but I believe that all of the other cell towers that have come through have been installed, with the exception of one that was going to be located on private property that never came to materialized because it was on city property, and they never went forward to try to get permission from city council on that one.
I guess, I mean, I'm less concerned if they're going, just raising the height of a light pole, but when you look at necessity, if that's across the street from the Hampton Inn and the Pilot Building, from some tall buildings, you know.
And we can certainly, I can run through these. There's only a couple slides that show the general location, what they look like, to give you guys an idea of exactly. I know you've already looked at them in the packets for them, but we can pull them up on screen. If there's any specific questions about one site in particular, we can stop on that. And then we can welcome Mr. Verizon up to the table and let him answer some of the questions that I'm unable to. So the first location is 5 North Church Street. You can see it's right there at the corner across from the old hardware store. They provided some of the simulation photos. You can see that it's going in between the grassed area between the sidewalk and the curbing. There's currently nothing in this location. The top height for the highest apparatus is 37.5 feet. It does have the mechanical box sitting at 18 feet to the top of the box, with the light pole in between. And the recommendation for this one is these 7 conditions that are on here. Co-location shall be required if a viable option is determined, is the 7th condition on this. I'd like to point out the first 2 conditions are to install a street light arm on the light poles as required by our right-of-way utilities. Number 2 is that the city council approval of the proposed small cell.
Alley right around the corner from that,
There is.
off of the main, most.
Potentially, and on some of those alleys, they would have to do some work to see if that was going to be blocking any type of ingress, egress for any vehicular traffic that may be using those alleyways. For this first one, I'm going to read these conditions, and then the following ones, I will reference the ones that are different. Number 3 is a pre-construction meeting shall be held with the city prior to issuance of any permits. 4 is follow-up activities below required by staff and the applicant upon satisfactory review and approval by the right-of-way construction inspector. As-built will be submitted to the GIS technician for inclusion into the GIS utility map. 5 is to provide a traffic control plan to the right-of-way inspector prior to commencement of any work. And 6 is the applicant shall contact Alabama One Call to locate all existing utilities, 1,000 feet maximum per day. The second location is UR 26.06. This is 450 Fairhope Avenue. The current proposed location is in front of the little community college there on Fairhope Avenue. Same height, 37.5 feet. This is one where we are requesting, as you see in condition 1, is that the location is moved east in front of Coastal Community College to replace an existing street light. this will at least remove one additional pole or not create an additional pole. The other items on the conditions are the same as previous. The third location is 100 North Bancroft. This is UR 26.07. This is located, as I said, on North Bancroft Street on the east side, just north of Equality. Looking at the photo simulation, you can see it is going next to another utility pole. Per our utilities, it cannot be co-located on that pole, so we'll have dueling poles at that area. That height is also 37.5 feet. Condition of approval are the same original 7 to install the street light arm, approval by council and co-location if possible.
2607, is there a co-location they can do on that?
There was not one that came up during our internal review of this project. The pole that is next to it has Fairhope Electric on it, and per our utilities cannot be co-located on that due to their code requirements. Now, that does not to say that there isn't options for, Verizon to help aid in putting some stuff underground to where then we're not adding additional poles, but maybe going underground with some of the utilities. But that would be a conversation with our electrical superintendent and Verizon to see if that's even something that's possible. May not be on every location, but a few of the locations that may be something that is an option.
Okay.
Moving on to UR 26.08 is at 319 Magnolia Avenue. This is just to the west side of the intersection of Magnolia and Section Street. This height is 37.5 feet as well. And you can see the pole placement is just on the inside of the sidewalk. Same 7 typical conditions that we have had with the street light, city council approval, and then 7 is the co-location if possible. UR 26.10 is 108 North Section Street. This is located at the southeast corner of Pine Street and Section Street at the corner. The slide here shows it replacing an existing light pole with the equipment on top and the antenna at the very top of that. The height of this is also 37.5 feet tall. Staff recommends approval with the same 7 conditions. The last
Was
one.
Magnolia replacing the existing light, is that's just new on
That is just a
Magnolia?
new one.
Okay.
And the last one we have on the agenda is UR 26.11. This is 850 Sea Cliff Drive. This is down at the Fairhope Marina. And there you can see the existing and the proposed. This is replacing a wooden pole with a taller pole down at the marina, keeping the light that is on there. And this height is actually almost 42 feet tall to the top of the antenna apparatus. Conditions of approval are to again install the street light and then city council approval of this small cell located on city-owned property. That is one difference between this review and the others, that this is actually on city property, not city right-of-way. And that is important for some of the requirements of what the small cell ordinance outlines for requirements of that.
Well, Mike, what I've got is F would be a new pole, G, due to your recommendation, if we, would be moved, so it would be an existing pole if we approve the staff recommendation, not what they're asking. H would be a new pole, I would be a new pole, J and K would each be on existing poles.
Yes.
And of course, K being down near the water, I would almost consider it a little bit differently than the others. That could be a safety issue for somebody out in the water with an emergency issue sometime.
Yes, those 3 items are being able to utilize a co-location for those spots.
I love this just to, make a positive recommendation on the 3 and hold the others over and see if Verizon could check and see if there might be some other co-locations that might serve us. I see Chris
So there's the
leaning forward.
potential also that there's some, if we're going to be looking into the possibility of co-locating outside of the right-of-way on buildings, of not having poles that are, almost 40 foot tall, if they're able to utilize an existing building that's 29, 32 feet, something along those lines, then we're not going back with something that's
Well, even if
a
we
little
made
more
even
intrusive.
if we made an exception, if we were against a building, it wouldn't be that noticeable compared to,
I was going to say, they're swapping out this light for a small cell. It may be there's somewhere in the area where that small cell can not replace the pole, and we don't have another 12-foot hanging up above the pole.
Chris, are we missing something you seem?
No.
I saw you were about to reach toward your microphone. I was wondering if am I leading folks astray or?
No, I think I'd be curious to hear from Verizon if they are here. The small cell ordinance does reference height on buildings and that sort of thing. We'd have to compare it with the zoning ordinance, but certainly it's promoted and suggested in the small cell ordinance for co-location and specifically use on buildings and that sort of thing. So I'd like to hear what they have to say about it.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Mike. Good job. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Bob Chopra with SAM. We're agents for Verizon Wireless. I know there's a lot of conversation about the small cells. Real quick history of kind of how we've ended up here. Verizon, I believe, has an agreement with the city providing a cell phone service or cell phones to the city, or has some agreement with different departments. There's been a lot of complaints about service. This year, we did a temporary cell on wheels for the Mardi Gras project. They asked if we could keep it on longer for the Arts and Crafts Festival. It wasn't in Verizon's budget. They couldn't keep it longer than what it was up for the Mardi Gras event. And in the interim, for the past year or so, we've been working on these small cell projects as well. And again, I've been getting emails internally about complaints from the city about coverage in the downtown core and what Verizon's going to do to improve that coverage. So here we are today, trying to get these approved.
What was the hang up with, or was co-location on buildings explored?
No,
as an option?
everything we'd worked on from day one was right away. So we worked with David Thomas for the right away office. We walked some of these locations with him and some of the Fairhope's utility folks, their staff, and we picked out some of these poles to replace. Per my last conversation with David, he said there were 2 nodes that would be spoken about today that you guys would likely push back on, other than the other 4 that were good. I mean, we can have further discussion about co-location, but there was no other co-location discussed other than placing them on existing utility poles that are not like high power lines or just basically secondary light poles.
I'd love to see some co-location conversation on buildings, particularly, we've got this building, we've got the library, we've got the parking deck. I mean, I'm just thinking of places that are all in the CBD that I would love to see explored. And I'm a Verizon customer. My coverage has been terrible, so I'm
not
also
a Verizon
very sympathetic
customer, so I'm wondering why I need it.
I understand the need, but I hate to see a bunch of new poles in downtown. We're actually spent money to run utilities underground whenever we get a chance. We're trying to do, the flowers on trash cans, et cetera. Anything we can do to beautify downtown, I think Fairhope has done it, and just kind of popping up new poles everywhere, especially if we start getting more requests from AT&T and whoever else is still operating the cell, T-Mobile.
Yeah, and with these poles, when we walked them with Fairhope's utility, just talking about existing light poles, these poles would be Fairhope green in color, whatever color they require. We'd work with the city. They are shrouded on top, so all the antennas are concealed. So there's no visibility, and there's a luminaire light standard on the pole. So, I mean, other than the antenna on top, it would look like a standard light pole.
Yeah, but, yeah.
It's still
That's
there.
10 feet up from, it's not
still
invisible. Is there any functional issue with them being back, like behind,
In
alleys on a
or
building or in
hidden.
an alley?
So you don't want obstruction. So if they're at, say, 35 feet, you don't want to be behind a building because you're losing signal in one direction. It's hitting a concrete wall. So you want to be in an open. You want to be in an open area.
Be above the
Need to
building.
be on
You
top
need
of
to
a
above,
building.
and you'll see none of these are proposed in the middle of oak trees either. They're not going to propagate through the branches either. So you can see through the placement of these, they're all sporadically around the downtown core because they're propagating about 600 to 800 feet. So they're kind of working with each other. They're not side by side.
I'm just
That's-
saying,
Go ahead.
like the one on Church is pretty close to the parking garage.
I'm not familiar. I'm not
Yeah, well,
familiar
the
with
one,
the church.
a few back, there's one of them that's proposed that's across the street and an alley away from the public parking garage where
Okay.
you could locate it on top and be free of obstructions. But sort of be out of the visual,
You know what the height on that would be, though?
I don't,
Any
the
idea?
parking deck is lower than,
Could be a shorter pole, or do they only
Parking
make the
decks would
standard
be in the
size?
30s, and
Again, these are all
top of
proposed
it.
around less than 37 feet. So I get the higher you go, then you're covering a larger swath, which they don't want to do. They're trying to improve coverage and capacity. Again, the problem here in Fairhope is, especially when you have your big events here, the Verizon's getting a ton of complaints.
So we're doing this for big events, not for everyday use.
Well, mine doesn't work downtown
Mine
at
doesn't
all
work in my
during the
house.
Not
day.
everybody has
Have you got-
Verizon either.
Well,
I do.
Well, okay. Well, I mean, we got
Oh.
a couple choices. We can either, any more questions at this time? I'm sorry, with our,
So I want to verify, Mike, if you would. You are 2610 is replacing a pole, not adding a pole. That's it, 108.
Yeah, right here, yeah.
Correct.
2611's at the marina.
Correct.
2606 at 450 Fairhope Avenue is replacing a street light.
We're,
Those are the two
we're
we're
requesting to replace the street light,
requesting.
correct.
So those two would be replacing something that's
three.
already there.
three.
What's the third one?
06, 10, and 11. 6, 10, and 11.
but one of these, I mean, that doesn't look quite the,
So that's
Yeah,
three.
that's right. Okay.
I'd love to see if I were the, king of the day, I'd love to see us approve 6, 10, and 11, and then come back and just confirm if there are any places that could possibly work for F, H, and I. I mean, like, mentioned the parking garage, which if you put a pole 10 feet up on it, it wouldn't be that noticeable, and it'd be pretty high up, or some of these other locations, just to make sure, a lot of times you get the engineers from a utility, and they're so gung-ho on what's the absolute cheapest, best, they put one in the middle of Macy's Christmas Day parade, Christmas tree, and I'd do it if I were in that position too, but, just when, I just think of that picture that we have of downtown Fairhope coming up from Section Street, back when the 7-Eleven was there, and all the telephone lines and poles, and people always ask, where's that? And it's like, that was Fairhope, and, it's not even recognizable. I'd love to see us just,
here's the one on 2606. I mean, that looks like a new pole when I'm looking at the street view.
well, the staff recommendation that Mike has moves it a little bit to
Yep.
Okay, to that other pole, that's
Staff
right.
recommendation moves it, it's gonna look similar to what's on the screen now.
Looking at our trees.
Yeah.
That's what they're, I think, and the color of it, I believe, as you mentioned, was discussed with our utilities. I think they came out and said to, make sure they're all Munsell green. That's kind of been a Fairhope comment since before I even got here, was to paint these, keep the color of Munsell green. You go downtown, most of all the fiber boxes, our light poles are that Munsell green. So that's where that color choice has come from and landed. As far as I know, there's not anything different coming from the city's options right now for wanting something different.
We had walked UR 2605 with them as well, and I thought that was another pole that was actually going to be removed, and we would put a new pole about 10 feet away from that one.
I don't believe,
The one close to, is it Old Bay Mercantile?
right.
parking garage
Okay.
possibility, I don't know. Worth exploring.
All right, well, I think we know everything we need to know. I will accept a motion.
I'll move
We'll
for
need to-
2611.
We have
Let's-
to
let's
vote on
start.
these individually as well.
Each individually, so 2605, that would be a new poll. Do I have a motion?
Find another location.
What are our,
Do you want a motion for, is it straight up
Denial.
approval or denial, or do we want,
You have the ability to do,
or he has the ability to table
Table.
certainly,
and additional options?
yes, and keep in mind, this is all going to be subject to council approval as well.
Correct.
We can't table it ourselves because it would be less than 30 days.
This is a utility review. It does not have that 30 days is subject to our final plat approvals.
Oh, it doesn't, okay.
So this is just a utility, but however, we do have where they've submitted an application for small cell ordinance, and I don't know what those numbers are inside that small cell ordinance would be my concern at this point.
I would just like to know what our other alternatives are.
I agree, I don't want to get too
I want that documented.
Yeah, does the requested table have to come from the applicant, or can the commission make that motion?
I'm comfortable if you're tabling it for like 30 days, doing that a short window.
Okay.
With or without the applicant.
to the next meeting then, all right.
So I'd like to make a motion to table UR 26.055 North Church Street to explore other possible options.
Do I have a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
And this is tabling to the July meeting.
Correct. Yes. All right, 2606, that is a current poll. It's based on the recommendation, so we need a subject to.
I move we recommend approval to the city council of 26.06 staff recommendations.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Passes. Oh, excuse me. One nay? Sorry, okay, we have 2, 4, 6, 8 ayes and 1 nay. Is that correct? Anybody else say nay? All right, perfect. All right, UR 2607, that would be a new poll.
Make a motion to table UR 26.07 100 North Bancroft until the July meeting to explore possible other locations.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. UR 2608, that's a new poll.
Make a motion to table UR 26.08 319 Magnolia Avenue until the July meeting to explore possible new locations.
Second.
Any further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. UR 2610, that's on a current poll.
I move we recommend approval to the city council of UR 2610, subject to staff recommendations.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion. Is that 2 nays? Motion passes 7-2. UR 2611, that's a existing poll.
I move we recommend to city council approval of UR 2611, subject to staff recommendations.
Do I have a second?
May I add a second, can we add a condition to the
Sure.
recommendation?
Further discussion?
Yes, this is also located, this is down at the docks. We also have a high-velocity flood zone down there. We'd like to look and make sure all of your equipment and everything is either mounted above base flood or in a watertight watertight box for all of your electrical components.
You want that as part of the motion?
Yes, please. That as an additional condition.
I move to amend my motion to add the condition that equipment be
Meet flood zone
meet
regulations.
flood zone regulations.
I've got a motion to approve subject to staff recommendation with equipment meeting flood zone recommendations or flood zone requirements. Do I have a second, Eric?
Second.
Any further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. And that one passes unanimously. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
All right.